Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at race number 5 at Del Mar on Saturday. It's a wide open edition of the Del Mar Juvenile Fillies turf. We are going a mile. Let's take a look at this field. It's 100 grander. Take out the 2. Arctic Breeze is scratched. Angelette, the number 6, made her North American debut at Del Mar earlier in the summer and looked really good. I thought she showed a good amount of agility to kind of move in and out and still finish up nicely down towards the rail.
Interesting field of 2-year-old fillies here. I think this is really wide open. You have horses that haven't fired on the dirt. They're going to try the turf, or horses coming off of wins, and even other horses that they might be maidens, but they have raced really good races so far in their career. So with a field of 10 like this becomes quite the puzzle.
And somewhat surprisingly, in a field full of 2-year-olds going 2 turns, we're not expecting a lot of pace. According to our Timeform US pace projector, this race might favor front runners. The 5 Tombow should be forwardly placed. She is trying turf for the first time, but she's also stretching out from 5.5 to a mile after chasing sprint fractions. I think the 8 is very interesting, adding blinkers with a bit of a pace dimension. Had some trouble in her debut.
Yeah, and that was at a mile. So she's got that mile race under her belt. But as you've mentioned, had trouble going to get blinkers on. Maybe that'll help her early. And I definitely agree with the 5 Tambo in terms of has been really close to some early quick fractions. So I would expect the same regardless of the surface switch.
The number 1 is Flattery, and Flattery came with a strong late rally in her career debut. You usually don't see 2-year-old first-time starters win like this. From left field, basically has to pass everyone in the final 3/16 of a mile. Now, she did benefit from a quick opening quarter of 22 and change, but she's the definition of a flashy chestnut firing on home.
Yeah, and she's got the clear run here on the outside. And I know you mentioned the opening quarter was swift, and maybe that was kind of the demon for some of the runners in there, but they really were sensible after that for the mile distance. Nothing ridiculous in terms of fractions. And to see a horse circle the field like that, especially doing all the dirty work in the stretch, it's not easy to do. I think the biggest concern, though, is you see the buyer. The buyer does not jump off the page, right? We know you can use buyers as a tool and how you want to work them, but it is just a 46 where other runners here have, 60s and even a little bit higher than that.
Arctic Breeze is the number 2. She's scratched, so we'll move on to Poppy's Joy. And Poppy's Joy is the most fascinating horse in the race. It's Little Red Feather and Phil D'Amato. So all of a sudden, it catches your attention, considering what they've done at Del Mar this summer. It's an expensive daughter of Kitten's Joy. She's bred for turf. You look at the running line. She didn't get bet in her debut. She ended up getting pulled up, and now she's running in a stakes race. So they like her. Why not? Why don't we like her?
I think it's just the fact that other horses on debut didn't do that. And obviously she was a little green in that race too. So you wonder, is she going to do it again? What's the difference? Blinkers were on for the debut. They're keeping blinkers on her. Her workouts, you look at her workout back on the 26th. It's a good time. Looks like the one on September 2nd, maybe just a maintenance drill. I have no idea what to do with her in this spot. And it's not necessarily one of the go-to riders for the barn. I think a couple of the riders that usually ride for Phil opted for other horses, but they're adamant about putting her in this race. So clearly, Dan, they know something that we don't.
Double Bay is the number 4. I think she's a bit of an interesting pace player because she's also stretching out from 5 to a mile. She showed a little bit of tactical speed in her career debut, and then she finished evenly. It's a building block race. The distance is a bit of a question mark. The no-nay nevers are very, very good on the turf. Once we start getting past 6.5 and 7, I worry a little bit.
You wonder too, she had to face her stablemate last time out, right? Julia Stream and Michael McCarthy splitting him up now. And this one stretching out. She really only missed the minors by 3. So that kind of eases, at least to me, that margin of defeat. But it's an interesting move. The barn does really well stretching horses out. But I agree, from a pedigree perspective, you wonder how far she really wants to go.
Tambo is our expected pace setter, stretching out and switching to turf for the first time. I wish there was a little bit more turf in this pedigree. It's too early to pigeonhole Enticed as any kind of a sire. He's a first crop stallion. The dam went 0-for-3 on the turf. She's foaled 3 turf runners. None of them have won. The second dam was at least stakes placed on the surface.
Just wonder if she's forwardly placed and for some reason the 8 who's getting the equipment change isn't forwardly placed. Is there a potential for her to be, I don't want to say lonely out there, but comfortable on the front end, at least to hang around for a share? I do think it's an interesting spot for her. Peter Urton's had a really great meet at Del Mar. It's been a great year overall. And to me, the drill, they put her on the turf and then visually they must have liked what they saw and decided, you know what, there's a $100,000 race for her. She's fresh off a win. Let's try.
Angeletta is the number 6. Doug O'Neill might have a nice prospect here. This one ran twice overseas, ran okay both times. Looked good winning her maiden in start number 3, going a mile. Saved ground, looked like she was going to angle to the outside, found that seam down towards the rail. You see her in the pretty red cheek pieces, and she's just very game in the stretch when she's confronted with some horses to her outside. She grinds on nicely. I think that agility is going to work well for her. I hope she's not a one-run closer, because if this pace is slow, it could work against her. I think it's too early to tell her running style.
Just looking at her run too, she's got, you mentioned the more European equipment on her. She looks like a horse that obviously now is proven at a mile. And looking at her races, 5 ace on debut. It was also probably the ground, maybe too short. She has gotten better with each and every start. I think having a win at the distance on the Del Mar turf course goes a long way.
O'Neill also has the 7, Bossy Bruin Gal. This is a fourth start maiden, 0 for 3 lifetime, but trying turf for the first time. Good magic average with his turf routers, 13%. The dam is a half to a stakes winner on the turf, but she's foaled 2 runners to try the surface to no avail. So I got to see more.
I need to see more. They've tried the gradual stretch out on the dirt. I don't think there's been a huge difference. Arguably, her best race was 2 back, going 6 furlongs on the main track, but she's going to need a ton more. And I just wonder, when I see things like this, we stretch out on distance, that doesn't work. Next thing is surface. If that doesn't work, is it equipment? I just feel like they're trying a lot of things with her.
Oratium the 8, Lottery the 9, both of these fillies ran well behind our morning line favorite last time out, and they both had a little bit of trouble. Oratium has the blinkers, might show a little bit more speed, and I respect Michael McCarthy. He knows what he's doing. I have a feeling his filly is going to be a lot tighter this time around.
I think she'll be better. I think, they do well with the equipment change and not the highest numbers we've seen with maiden second time out, but I also think the barn is another barn that develops horses. When you think of some of the horses that have been in Michael McCarthy's barns, there's a little bit more of a longer term goal with them. And I think she could certainly be the case. I think she had issues on debut. She didn't take any respect, but I would expect her to take a step forward.
And Lottery, the number 9, was favored in that race that produced Angeletta. And she didn't break well like many European imports. She found herself at the back. The pace was there for her. She made a nice run. Watching that race, you could see why they picked her out, because she obviously has a little bit of quality. I wouldn't be surprised if she comes with a run and improves off that 58 buyer.
I think she will. I thought it was a really good effort. I mean, I think if you like the winner of the race, you have to like her as well. Just, I think they both raced as best as they could in sort of that circumstances. And another one who has, again, taken a step forward, just like Angeletta, has moved up. And I like that you pointed out, in terms of coming to that first race, North America can be very difficult. So I think anything that looks remotely good, it's a good effort and it's a building block.
Of the horses trying turf for the first time, from a pedigree standpoint, I like the 10 into Yellowstone the best. The dam won on the turf. She's foaled a turf winner. This is a turfy family. It's just that this filly didn't do much running in her debut on dirt at Del Mar. Now they're taking the blinkers off. They're stretching her out. Just a lot of things going on here. To me, she has to improve a lot.
Yeah, you've summed it up. When they start switching a bunch of things at once, it's never an angle that I like. I rather try things, and if they don't work, then you go back to the foundations and figure out maybe something else to try. So when you start to see a lot going on, not sure. And as you said, she really didn't do much running at all. I know they went quick and maybe they ran off her feet early on, and maybe she just wasn't, sure what to do after she broke slow, but not a race that I can really make much of a case for her.
The 11, Kaylin Dana, is a sleeper in this race. She's going to have to overcome a tough outside post position, but she ran quite well with a respectable buyer speed figure in her debut, going 5/8 of a mile. We watched Kaylin Dana in here, and she's going to rally nicely to finish second. She's by the very underrated stallion Oscar Performance. There's plenty of turf in this family, and once she gets away from in behind horses and is in the clear, she comes with a good solid run.
Yeah, I think it was a really good run, and she looks to me like to be a little bit on the bigger side just from that race, and maybe she's going to need more ground to go at. And she's a type that I think, especially as you mentioned, looking at Oscar performance, we can go longer. We can go longer than 5A. So I think the stretch out to a mile should work well, but post might be a detriment. We'll find out. I mean, a lot again goes with the break and then what position you're able to get early, even if a mile race, just knowing you have a decent amount of run to the first turn to get that good position.
Maybe we'll see one or two of these in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. Maybe it'll be the 6 Angeletta. That's where we're going. I just like the agility she showed in her debut. I think she can take a slight step forward. You have the 9 in there, Lottery, and again, she ran so well and took so much money in her debut. She can improve.
You have to also like the 9 for me. Those were my top 2 in here, but I thought it was wide open. I know we both like the 11 as well, but it's a tough race outside of, I guess, of our top pick.
We're going with the 6 in here. Maybe Double Bay, the 4, stretching out a little bit in distance, can run a bit better at a price. But 6, 9, 11, 5 for Ashley, 6, 4, 11, 10 for me. Del Mar Juvenile Fillies turf on Saturday. Best of luck.